politics and trade is not key, or the bill is not key to treatment, so there's no impact, no offense on this will go to the war event. We all vote on a small risk of bioweapons in Asia war that massively outweighs any small risk of case because of the impact even now. If outweighs the case bioweapons cause extinction because they're engineered to kill nuclear war won't cause extinction. There's no scenario for nuclear war that's scientifically disproven. Also, there are people who live in nuclear fallout shelters and in New Zealand will always significantly survive in nuclear winter. Their only one form magnitude framing is best because of irreversibility. The only scenario for complete irreversible extinction is bioweapons, which will concede the magnitude comes first. That means in turns case now proliferation also causes massive scenarios for nuclear war. First, then Asia war because it causes the Senkaku preventing even in Senkaku Islands and such China Sea conflict because China will not perceive a attack as economically beneficial if such if the rest of the region has nuclear weapons means that causes extinction. Always this scenario because NATO can never check. It also turns the NATO event because it turns the it means that NATO won't have to go into some of these other areas because other regional actors will have proliferated, which means that NATO won't have to overextend itself. They said holistic. They said they have a holistic analysis. No, they don't. Every piece of evidence they read is wrong in this question. Asa point is that it's racist. The Carl evidence that spreads of proliferation in the wrong hands is based off of racist third world assumptions of the third world irrational actors that takes out their NATO impact out about rogue states. Asa point is political fear mongering. Their impact evidence recreates the logic of the witch hunt. They exaggerate threats of proliferation so that people can care about what their authors say and buy. The very last point is data. Prefer pure data on this question because the only way, the only analysis you can do with that's not confounded by personal assumptions of individual researchers. We all estimate holistic analysis does not meet the threshold of an argument. They said magnitude first will concede. They said the NATO assaults eventual war will. This is irrelevant because the nuclear war comes first on this question. That was the magnitude framing of the 1AR. They on bioweapons. They said proliferation caused bioweapons. The Akaf evidence is exactly what they were saying. Either states will proliferate and have nuclear weapons, or they'll get bioweapons. If they proliferate, then they'll choose not to have bioweapons, which is exactly what they're saying. They said there's no that that's not a mechanism. This is incoherent. Obviously, this is their mechanism. Either states will proliferate or they'll get bioweapons. They said that there's no risk of they said there's no extinction. But they don't prefer Easterbrook. He's a person. He's from the New Republic. He's not a qualified expert on. He's not a qualified expert like our nuclear engineer. Now they said that the disease stuff. They'll concede no impact to diseases. It doesn't take out the bioweapons impact because our bioweapons impact evidence is specific to genetically engineered disease. Words are disease impact evidence is just generic natural disease. But now the proliferation is key to check war because it causes cost concerns and increase the and means that there's no risk of a war because the costs are too high. No state will want to go to war in a scenario of that means that there's no means it escalates all scenarios for war. Impact defense. Data disproves the agriculture. There's no risk of an agricultural water war. States turning words between there's no risk of famine or instability. They said there's terrorism. There's no terminal impact of terrorism. They read they said refugee outflows. There's no reason why that would escalate to a nuclear war. Also proliferation solves because you need that states will want to go to war over this. They said there's no reason why 2014 won't escalate. For evidence, data evidence makes a predictive claim that says that there's zero empirical examples, which means that it is outside the scope of possibility for 2014 for it to happen. States turning war means that there's no. They also don't have the resources to fight a war if they run out of food. They said. Biodiversity impact defense. They said that there's not biodiversity loss is not, or they said biodiversity loss doesn't cause extinction. Their evidence is the only answer to this is that biodiversity loss is happening now at a rate that's faster than ever. This does not answer the answer to that. The biodiversity is naturally resilient. 350 studies prove that the biodiversity is not going to that keystone species don't exist and every species is key to global ecosystem. Their impact evidence is about global class of biodiversity. We're not the keystone species like the things that they offer itself are not under threat, which means that also ecosystems are interconnected. Even if you entirely destroy one ecosystem, won't affect others. They said no impact to water wars. Data on this question prefer. That was in the overview of the debate. Now the data destroys water wars. Leads to cooperation. Also increase the cost of war. No country will go to war if they don't have any water to fight it. Go to EU. The only scenario for NATO that they've isolated is rogue states causing proliferation. The entire thesis of the proliferation bad arguments is proved. This means that there's zero impact. This is also the rogue state. The idea of rogue states are specifically racist, isolated by the one entity evidence means that they are all based on a flawed epistemology of how we relate to the developing countries. Means that they should very specifically reject this piece of evidence. Also, it's also fear mongering. The Coney evidence specifically. states that the scholars have consistently exaggerated the threats of NATO because by fear-mongering, also because it's a patriotism, because of NATO is this exemplar of USA. USA means. No, second is that other institutions solve this, like the UN and other means. It means that the other institution will be able to intervene for humanitarian relief, which means that there's no impact to this isolated to NATO. The only impact isolated was about rogue states.